I find sit still, a whole thought in my head. We keep hoping things will change, that the right opportunity will come and tomorrow will be different. But when you look back, the years have gone by, and what really changed? Some say they found the peace that time taught them to deal with life. But is that really true? Or did they just give up fighting, give up dreaming, settled down, and decided to call the weight of living without hope peace?
Hope is a dangerous thing.
I don't buy that idea. I don't believe that living is just breathing, doing chores, filling out calendars, and learning to deal with suffering. I believe living is about creating, transforming, dreaming, and making things happen. But now, how do you find that in the midst of boredom and hopelessness? How do you carve a path to freedom if everything around you seems to say it's impossible? That's exactly what the movie The Shawshank Redemption makes us reflect on. It's a film that exposes these dilemmas with disconcerting clarity. Maybe that's even why it's considered, in popular opinion, the best movie of all time. Not just for showing the stone prisons, but mainly for highlighting the invisible prisons where we live without even noticing. And more than that, this movie makes us believe in something, makes us dream of freedom. It might even be an illusion, but in the end, it's that illusion that keeps us going.
Hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies.
The movie starts by showing Andy Dufresne, a successful man, vice president of a big bank, someone who seemed to have his life under control until everything falls apart. He is accused of murdering his wife and her lover, and despite claiming his innocence, he is sentenced to life in Shawshank Prison. And so we see a man from the upper ranks of the professional world thrown into the midst of the most brutal and rotten aspects of society. Right away, Andy seems out of place, and everyone expects him to break down. After all, how could someone from such a different world endure that oppressive environment? But Andy is different. While the other inmates who arrived with him seem to carry the weight of the environment, he walks through the yard as if he's taking a stroll in the park. Not because he's arrogant, although many think he is, but because Andy simply doesn't let himself be consumed by the place. Red, a respected and influential inmate, notices his peculiar behavior. Red understands how things work in the prison. After decades in Shawshank, he knows the unwritten rules, understands how the prison works, and has mastered its tricks. And that's why he's surprised by the way the newcomer faces that reality. Andy intrigues him not only because of his calmness, but also because in a place where hope is the first thing to go, he still seems to carry it quietly in his pocket, like someone carrying a secret. And for some strange reason that he can't quite explain, Red starts to admire this man who is so different from everyone he's ever met there.
I think it would be fair to say I liked Andrew from the start.
But make no mistake, life in prison doesn't spare Andy. He faces physical abuse, assaults, and humiliation. But despite all the heavy circumstances, he seems unaffected. He continues his life always searching for something, seeking progress or meaning in his routine. Instead of letting himself be consumed by violence, corruption, and the monotony of prison, he decides to do something with the time he has. Andy doesn't just try to forget the reality around him. He tries to reconnect with what makes him feel alive. Like when he plays a song for 2 minutes for the whole yard to hear, knowing he'll be punished for it. Or when, by helping a guard with a tip about taxes, he earns a few minutes of beer on the rooftop with his friends. They're simple moments, but for him, they're a way to feel freedom, even if just for a few moments.
I think he did it just to feel normal again, even if briefly.
And more than that, unlike the others, Andy gets involved in several activities. Small acts that, at first glance, seem insignificant, but for him, carry an important meaning. He writes letters weekly to the government, asking for funds to improve the prison library. Against all odds, he still manages and uses this space to create an education program for the inmates, offering graduation diplomas. A place that now gives the inmates a new perspective, a new purpose, something that goes beyond the bars and offers hope in an environment that seems designed to crush any trace of it. Andy also keeps up the hobbies he had before prison, like making small chess pieces out of little stones he finds in the prison, and a small hammer he hides in his cell. To others, it might seem like an unimportant hobby, but for Andy, It's a reminder that his mind is still free, even if his body is imprisoned.
There are places in the world that aren't made out of stone. There's something inside that they can't get to, that they can't touch. It's yours.
And when we talk about this contrast between mind and body, it's something that's very evident in the relationship between Andy and Red. While Andy still holds on to hope, Red has already given up on dreaming. After so much time in prison, facing repeated rejections from the parole board, he gave up any idea of a life beyond these walls. That becomes clear throughout the movie, but one scene especially catches my attention. Red mentions that he used to play the harmonica before he was imprisoned, but he gave that up a long time ago. For him, playing was more than music. It connected him to something he no longer believes in. Andy, noticing this, decides to surprise Red with a harmonica as a gift, but Red hesitates. He holds the gift with a mix of discomfort and fear. Accepting it felt like unlocking a dream Red hid decades ago. To him, dreaming is both dangerous and pointless.
Talk about hope. Hope. Let me tell you something, my friend. Hope is a dangerous thing. Hope can make a man go insane. It's useless inside. I better get used to that idea.
While the whole story unfolds, Andy keeps a secret that not even Red knows, day after day. With the same small hammer he uses to carve his chess pieces, he digs a tunnel in the wall of his cell. It's not a grand plan or something he expects to finish soon. It's a decades-long project, but Andy doesn't mind. Every small piece of concrete that's removed is a step toward his freedom. Proof that even though he's in Shawshank, Shawshank will never be inside him. The movie shows us, in a brutal and honest way, how circumstances can lead someone to give up on dreaming. Andy is constantly tested. He suffers severe punishments and faces abuse. He sees blatant corruption all around him, in a prison controlled by a man who should symbolize justice, but embodies the opposite of it.
I believe in two things: discipline and the Bible.
The warden is the embodiment of hypocrisy. He presents himself as a man of God.
Salvation lives within.
He leads the famous Inside Out program, which gains relevance in the media and reinforces his facade of morality. But behind that mask, he is someone as corrupt and rotten as anyone else. At Shawshank, he uses his position to get rich, manipulate, and protect his own interests, without caring about the lives he destroys in the process. One of the cruelest moments in the movie happens when we find out that Andy is actually innocent. He never killed his wife or her lover. There is concrete evidence that could set him free, but the warden, afraid of losing control over Andy, who manages his illegal financial scheme, does the unthinkable. He silences a young inmate who could testify in Andy's favor, ordering his execution without hesitation. It's such a devastating injustice that it could destroy any remaining hope. Andy is an innocent man, sentenced at the age of 30. He spent over 15 years wrongly imprisoned, and when he finally gets a chance to prove his innocence, it's cruelly taken away. But instead of giving in, Andy does the opposite. He keeps his determination, refusing to be shaped by the system that tries to crush him. Many, when faced with something like this, lose themselves, let injustice consume their lives, allowing anger and resentment to become permanent. And the worst part? Over time, what was once intolerable becomes routine. Outrage gives way to acceptance, and what was once rejected is simply absorbed as part of life.
Essas paredes são engraçadas. Primeiro você as odeia, depois você se acostuma com elas. Com o tempo você acaba dependendo delas. Isso é estar institucionalizado.
In the beginning, people fight against the chains, but gradually the environment shapes them. They stop fighting, stop dreaming, and simply survive. Prison shifts from physical to mental, and tragically, when that happens, walls aren't needed. You become your own prisoner. Andy, however, refuses to accept that. He believes that as long as there's life, there's something worth fighting for, and he holds on to this idea even in the worst times. For Andy, life is his only guarantee, and he holds on to it with everything he has. I wanted to discuss the movie's main message. In Shawshank, we meet Brooks, an elderly man who was sentenced when he was still very young and spent almost his entire life in prison. Inside, he has his routine, his duties, he is someone, but when he is finally released, old and frail, What should have been a celebration becomes an even crueler sentence.
The man spent 50 years here. It's all he knows. Inside, he's important and educated. Outside, he's nothing.
Brooks feels lost outside prison, an old man in an unfamiliar world. The freedom he once dreamed of now feels like punishment. He tries to adapt, tries to fit back into society, gets a job as a bagger, lives in a simple boarding house, but none of that fulfills him. Freedom, for him, is emptiness.
I'm tired of being afraid all the time. I've decided not to stay.
In desperation, he chooses to end his life because Shawshank was his home, his refuge, his safety. As contradictory as it may seem, and as the movie goes on, we see Red face the same dilemma. After serving 40 years in prison, he is finally released. But just like Brooks, he faces the difficulty of reintegrating into society. He ends up in the same cheap boarding house, takes the same job as a bagger, and feels the crushing weight of a world he no longer recognizes. Fear and insignificance consume him, and Red seems on the verge of following the same path as Brooks.
No way I'm gonna make it on the outside. All I do anymore is think of ways to break my parole. So maybe they'd send me back. Terrible thing to live in fear. Brooks Adeline knew it all too well. All I want is to be back where things make sense, where I won't have to be afraid all the time. Only one thing stops me, a promise I made to Andy. Listen.
Promise me, Red. If you ever get out, find that spot. There's something buried under it all.
What is it?
That was the last conversation he had with his friend, who on that same day quietly escaped from Shawshank Prison. After 19 years in prison, Andy finally finished digging the tunnel he had been making in his cell.
I want him found. Not tomorrow, not after breakfast. Now.
And now he's free, living a dream he had talked about in prison with Red, of a life on a paradise beach.
I'll tell you where I'm going. Zihuatanejo, a little place on the Pacific Ocean.
Pacific Ocean? Damn, I get scared to death of something that big.
Not me.
And it was that promise that Red made to Andy that saved his life. Red chooses to go after what his friend hid for him and finds a letter with an invitation to meet him on that paradise beach, far away from everything.
If you're reading this, you've gotten out, and if you've come this far, maybe you're willing to come a little further. I could use a good man to help me get my project on wheels. I'll keep an eye out for you and the chessboard ready.
Suddenly, Red starts dreaming again. He chooses hope. He chooses to go after the dream that Andy left for him, and he breaks the cycle that seemed inevitable.
I find I'm so excited I can barely sit still or hold a thought in my head. I think it's the excitement. Only a free man can feel it. A free man at the start of a long journey whose conclusion is uncertain.
In the end, Red sees the hope he once despised save his life. He freed himself from the thoughts he believed were his protection, but in reality, they were the chains that kept him from moving forward. Red faced the same dilemma that many of us face: to leave the cage and embrace the unknown, or to remain safe in a space that no longer offers life. It's the choice between fear and risk, between surviving and truly living. The problem is that we've learned to believe that the things that limit us protect us, that barriers are necessary, that we depend on them. We end up fearing even our dreams. Why are we like this? We dream of flying, but we fear heights. We prefer the promise of safety and the certainty of our cages over the infinite possibilities of the sky. We say we want freedom, but we desperately cling to the bars we put up ourselves. Because flying demands something that terrifies us, the void. And we believe that the void is where our mind can go insane, where we can get lost. But in reality, the void is the space of freedom. It's the place where certainties disappear. Perhaps that's why many choose cages. Clinging to certainties is easier than facing the unknown or blaming the world, the system, or circumstances. But what Andy and Red show us is that, in the end, freedom begins within us, that no one holds the keys to our cage except ourselves.
Get busy living or get busy dying, that's goddamn right.